And so it's my honor to introduce our headline speaker today. Mohammed has just returned. He's a Palestinian based in Manchester who has just returned from Gaza. And he will speak about his experiences and what we need to do. So Mohammed.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for coming. So I really would like to see you all a bit closer. Could you all please come closer so you can hear me better and so I can see you better? And yeah, just thank you so much. Perfect. Amazing, thank you so much. Okay, so I guess I'd just like to start by saying it's amazing that you're all here. 92 days now into Israel's brutal assault on Gaza and still showing the support and solidarity very strongly. You can't imagine how important, well, I think you do imagine how important it is, but also your voices are heard in Gaza and people are really buoyed by seeing all this solidarity, especially given how hostile the environment is in the UK right now. I won't lie that when I was thinking of the prospect of coming back to Manchester, I think I was terrified by how hostile the environment has been. So I just want to give you all a big cheer in that sense. So, like, well done for keeping up the struggle. Thank you. Okay. So this is. I'm sorry that I'm going to be reading from a phone, but yeah. So I spent 65 days under Israel's brutal bombing of Gaza, and eventually I made like an impossible choice to me of leaving and using the privilege of my British passport to come out of Gaza. It's a choice that's not available to so many people in Gaza. People, Palestinians who are now suffering from malnutrition, dehydration, and an overwhelming public health crisis that's been created by the Israeli state's actions and their siege. Israel is relentlessly pursuing a policy to force people out of Gaza and to kill as many Palestinians as possible in the pursuit of that policy. Despite the fact that I have a home here in Manchester to escape to, staying in Gaza actually was, to me, a very logical choice. My home and my community there were under threat, and I reasoned that I could use my voice, my actions to a maximum effect while there to support that community and to resist the Israeli occupation, to expose their actions and to support the community in Gaza. My mother left Gaza in early October for medical reasons. My father then left a month afterwards, and I stayed. I was hosting 50 of my relatives at our family home in Khan Yunis, and I carried on doing media outreach and supporting aid efforts where I could. So going back to Gaza for me was my first extended visit home since 2004. And when Israel began its brutal bombardment of Gaza and the ground invasion, staying and experiencing the brutal assault and medieval level blockade, depriving us of water, food, electricity was not easy, but I always thought it was important to remember that I was in actually quite a privileged position because I was one of 10% of people in Gaza who was still in a home that belonged to my family. Family members lost their homes early on. My mother's apartment building suffered heavy bombardment, and as of mid-November there were snipers and Israeli tanks underneath it. My father's home and IVF center have suffered damage and vandalism. So many people. I mean, obviously a lot of the time the headline figure is 22,000 plus killed, 50,000 injured. But I think one of the massive hidden impacts is just the massive loss of homes, loss of livelihoods. Just earlier I was speaking to a cousin of mine. He works as a joiner, and we were just discussing like his work, his prospects. He's lost his home. His joinery was underneath his home, and and that's all been crushed by the home being destroyed on top of it. And we were just thinking of how to rise up and support people through that, because like in the end, I think there's a phrase, a known phrase that we say existence is resistance, and being able to carry on living and resisting in Gaza is very important in terms of countering Israel's policy of ethnic cleansing and genocide. Going back to the script now. While I was in Khan Yunis, I came quite close to being under the rubble myself. I just arrived at my aunt's house, and a massive bomb was dropped just next door to them. It brought down the garden wall. It filled the house with rubble. These narrow escapes are so common as well. But ultimately, this, as I was saying, it does pale in comparison to the human losses, the human cost in people killed and people wounded, and I think it's important to draw attention now to some of the racist utterances of Israeli officials and and supporters of Israel. I think something that was quite noticeable at the beginning was like Benjamin Netanyahu quoting the verse from the Old Testament about the Amalekites, saying that about a confrontation between the children of darkness and the children of light, and that Israel should destroy everything that belongs to them, not to spare them, to put to death men, women, children, infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys. And this genocidal speech continues. We have the Israeli ambassador to the UK the other day, Tzvi Hoteveli, stating that making this fake news claim that under every second home in Gaza there's a tunnel, and using it to then justify the destruction of the whole of Gaza, and brazenly saying it, and how can that be allowed to fly? I mean, it really is like testament to how far gone the political establishment is in that respect, and the UK government and its support for that. I would want that ambassador to be expelled from the UK, and instead they're still welcomed. Throw her out. Yeah. The resilience of the Palestinian people, my people, is impressive, and it really kept me going. Eventually, I had to make a decision as to what to do, and I think ultimately, in situations like that, I was making like day-to-day calculations of I guess relative safety, of cost benefit, of being there versus being here, ultimately, the circle started closing in. There were Israeli troops coming into Khan Yunis, quite close to where I was. We started seeing and hearing reports of people being executed by Israeli forces, particularly men, I also heard of, for example, there was the news of the assassination of Rifat al-Harir, who was like an outspoken poet and writer and lecturer who had been assassinated. I truly believe for being outspoken in the media, and it made me, it worried me. Eventually we got a evacuation notice for the block that I was in, and I started thinking, okay, I think it's time now for me to take the fight outside of Palestine. And so I packed my bags and I went to the Rafah crossing. It was really, really, really painful leaving. I was on the plane out of Cairo at 29,000 feet, and you can see the explosions over like in Gaza, and it just made me weep. I spent some time in Turkey, just I guess decompressing to kind of prepare myself for resuming the struggle, because I think I owe it to myself and to everyone in Gaza, everyone in Palestine, to bring that fight for Palestinian rights here, to join with you and with everyone that's working in solidarity with Palestine. And I want to add my voice to the voices of resistance to Israeli domination, occupation and oppression, and to work with every fibre of my being to ensure that when someone says never again, they actually mean never again ever, not just never again for one group or other. So while the International Criminal Court has failed to act when it comes to Palestinian war crimes, I'm, at the same time, we're quite buoyed by the South African action at the ICJ, and I'm looking at means of legal action myself in terms of where there are avenues to take action to stop anyone that's been complicit with Israel, be they arms companies or corporations that support Israel's actions. I guess I'd do a quick little plug, because I've been working with an organisation that some friends and I set up called Amplify Gaza Stories, for that we've it's something about ultimately noticing how much of the narrative in the media is pro-Israeli, and working in some way to counter that narrative and make sure that Palestinian stories and voices are given prominence, and merely the prominence of humanizing them again after all the dehumanization that's going on in the media is just what we're doing. So that's like Amplify Gaza Stories, and it's something that also goes both ways. So while we've been working on getting voices out of Gaza, we've also been working on practical solidarity measures, and this is something that I guess we something perhaps for everyone in some way to take away, because for example, we've been supporting a fundraiser to give people the means of preparing hot meals for their immediate community, and that, while there are efforts that are going on on institutional levels, it's always never enough, and whatever means people can be given in Gaza to help themselves are very important. And I guess I'd probably like to leave you perhaps with like a point of action, maybe. I mean, as I said, it's amazing to see you all here, and I think coming to demos is but like the tip of the iceberg when it comes to solidarity. I'd like to hope that each of you is going home today with the thought of like some small action that you can take for Palestine, be it in your work, in your friendship group, having a conversation that you've not had before. Just think of your spheres of influence and what you can do to keep supporting Palestinians in Gaza. Thank you very much.
Thank you.